Imagine you wake up tomorrow, but your phone is gone. Your house is gone. Your clothes are gone. You're lying on dirty straw, surrounded by smoke, animal waste, and the sound of coughing people. Your stomach hurts. Your mouth is dry, and the water in front of you might kill you. There are no doctors, no police, no food delivery, no second chances. Before the sun sets today, you could die from hunger, infection, violence, or something as small as a toothache. This is not a movie. This is real medieval life. And you wouldn't survive it for even 24 hours. You wouldn't wake up in medieval times feeling rested or ready for the day. You'd wake up already sick, already exhausted, and already at a disadvantage. Sleep itself was a struggle. There were no soft mattresses, no clean sheets, no quiet rooms. You'd be lying on a rough wooden frame stuffed with straw or hay that hadn't been changed in months, sometimes years. That straw was alive. Fleas, lice, mites, and bedbugs crawled through it freely, feeding on your skin all night. By morning, your body would be covered in itchy bites, small wounds, and rashes that could easily become infected. The air you breathed wouldn't be fresh. Medieval homes were filled with smoke from open fires used for cooking and warmth. There were no chimneys in many houses, just holes in the roof or walls. Your eyes would burn, your throat would feel raw, and your lungs would already be damaged from constant smoke inhalation. Many people suffered from chronic coughing and breathing problems, even at a young age. You'd feel weak not because you were lazy, but because your body had been under constant stress since birth. Cleanliness, as you understand it today, simply didn't exist. Bathing was rare, sometimes only a few times a year. Soap was expensive, and water had to be carried by hand, bucket by bucket. On top of that, many believed bathing opened the body to disease, so staying dirty felt safer to them. Your skin would be layered with sweat, dirt, and bacteria. Small cuts from daily labor would stay open and unclean, slowly turning red and swollen. Infection wasn't a possibility. It was an expectation. Hunger would already be sitting in your stomach when you woke up. Most medieval people didn't eat breakfast the way we do. Food was rationed carefully, and meals were limited. Malnutrition was common, especially among peasants. Vitamins and balanced diets were unknown concepts. Your muscles would feel weak, your head light, and your immune system almost useless. Children grew up undersized. Adults aged quickly, and fatigue was a constant companion. Pain was part of everyday life. Your joints would ache from hard labor, even if you'd only been there one day. Old injuries never healed properly. There were no painkillers, no physical therapy, no rest days. If you had a tooth problem before arriving in medieval times, the pain would be unbearable by morning. Infections from teeth often spread into the jaw or bloodstream, killing people slowly and painfully. Before the day even truly began, you'd already be fighting your own body. Weak, itchy, hungry, and breathing polluted air. You wouldn't feel like a hero stepping into history. You'd feel like someone who was already losing. And this was considered normal. This was how life started every single day. And for many, it didn't last much longer after that. Food and water in medieval times wouldn't comfort you. They would actively work against your survival. The moment you felt thirsty, you'd already be in danger. Clean drinking water was extremely rare. Rivers and streams were shared by everyone and everything. People dumped waste into them. Animals drank from them. Clothes were washed there. Dead animals sometimes floated nearby. To you, that water would look brown, smell foul, and still be your only option. One drink could infect you with deadly bacteria, parasites, or diseases that your modern body has never learned to fight. Because of this, many people drank weak beer or ale instead of water. Alcohol was safer because the brewing process killed some germs. But it came with its own problems. Children drank it. Adults drank it constantly. Dehydration, dizziness, and poor judgment were common. You wouldn't be refreshed. You'd feel slow, foggy, and unsteady, especially if you weren't used to consuming alcohol just to stay alive. Food wasn't much better. Bread was the foundation of medieval diets, but it wasn't the soft, clean bread you know today. It was dark, dense, and often mixed with whatever grains were available. Sometimes insects, dirt, or even sawdust ended up inside. Mold was common, but people ate it anyway because wasting food could mean starving later. That mold could make you sick, causing stomach pain, vomiting, and weakness within hours. Meat was a luxury for most people, and when it was available, it was rarely fresh. Without refrigeration, meat spoiled quickly. Salt was used to preserve it, but that didn't stop bacteria completely. The smell alone would turn your stomach, yet people ate it out of necessity. Food poisoning was normal. Stomach cramps, diarrhea, and fever were daily experiences, not medical emergencies. Your body would struggle almost immediately. Severe diarrhea, known as dysentery, was one of the biggest killers of the medieval world. It drained people of fluids and strength rapidly. There were no rehydration solutions, no Roman IV, no doctors who understood what was happening. People didn't die dramatically. They faded, growing weaker hour by hour until they couldn't stand, couldn't speak, and couldn't survive. Even when food didn't kill you outright, it slowly destroyed your health. Diets lacked fruits, vegetables, and nutrients. Vitamin deficiencies caused scurvy, weak bones, bleeding gums, and constant fatigue. Children grew up malnourished. Adults aged quickly, and disease spread easily through weakened bodies. Eating in medieval times wasn't enjoyable. It was a risk you took every day. Every bite and every sip was a gamble between survival and sickness. By midday, your stomach would likely be in knots, your energy gone, and your body fighting something it couldn't see. And this wasn't bad luck. This was everyday life. In medieval times, the smallest injury could quietly turn into a death sentence, and you wouldn't even realize it until it was too late. A tiny cut on your finger from a tool, a blister from walking, or a splinter from wooden furniture would seem harmless at first. Today, you wash it, maybe add a bandage, and forget about it. Back then, there was no such protection. Water wasn't clean. Hands weren't washed, and tools were never sterilized. Bacteria entered wounds immediately and began spreading unchecked. People had no understanding of germs. Infection wasn't seen as something caused by invisible organisms, but as bad air, curses, or divine punishment. Treatments were based on tradition, superstition, or prayer. Wounds might be packed with dirty cloth, animal fat, or herbal mixtures that did nothing to stop bacteria. Sometimes wounds were burned with hot metal to clean them, causing extreme pain and more damage to the body. If the wound didn't close properly, it festered, turning red, swollen, and hot to the touch. Fever would follow. Chills, shaking, confusion, and intense pain would set in. Blood poisoning, known today as sepsis, was common and almost always fatal. Once infection entered the bloodstream, there was no way to stop it. People became delirious, weak, and helpless, often dying within days. This could happen to anyone: farmers, soldiers, children, and nobles alike. Even internal pain was dangerous. Toothaches were one of the most feared problems of medieval life. There were no dentists, no antibiotics, and no painkillers beyond alcohol or crude herbs. A simple cavity could spread infection into the jaw, sinuses, or brains. Many people died from tooth infections, slowly and painfully, unable to eat or sleep. Some attempted to pull teeth with pliers or knives, often making the infection worse or causing deadly bleeding. Broken bones were another nightmare. If you slipped, fell, or were struck by something heavy, the injury might never heal correctly. Bones were set without proper knowledge. If they were set at all, a bad fracture could leave you crippled for life, or lead to infection and death. Amputation was sometimes the only option, performed without anesthesia, sterile tools, or understanding of shock. Many people didn't survive the procedure itself. Pain was constant and unavoidable. There were no reliable ways to numb it. Suffering wasn't treated. It was endured. Your body would weaken not just from injury, but from the stress of living in constant pain and fear of injury. One wrong step, one careless moment, and your life could begin to end. In medieval times, survival wasn't about bravery or strength. It was about avoiding injury at all costs. And even then, luck often decided your fate. Disease, filth, and fear were not occasional problems in medieval times. They were the environment you lived in every single day. From the moment you stepped outside, you'd be surrounded by conditions that quietly worked to destroy your health. Streets were narrow, crowded, and filthy. Human waste was often thrown directly out of windows. There were no sewer systems, no garbage collection, and no understanding of sanitation. Waste piled up in corners, attracting insects and animals that spread illness everywhere they went. Rats were impossible to escape. They lived in walls, under floors, in food storage areas, and in the streets. Fleas thrived on these rats, and those fleas carried deadly diseases. The most infamous was the plague, but it wasn't rare or mysterious to people at the time. It was a recurring nightmare. You could feel fine in the morning and be dead within days. Fever, swelling, vomiting, and unbearable pain would arrive suddenly, and there was nothing anyone could do to stop it. People didn't know what caused disease. Germs were unknown. Instead, sickness was blamed on bad air, sinful behavior, witchcraft, or God's punishment. Doctors, when available, often made things worse. Treatments included bloodletting, leeches, toxic mixtures, or forcing patients to inhale foul-smelling substances to balance the body. These methods weakened already sick people, pushing them closer to death rather than recovery. Fear was constant and logical. Every cough made people suspicious. Every rash raised alarm. Families watched loved ones deteriorate rapidly. Powerless to help, entire households could disappear in weeks. Quarantines were crude and brutal. Doors nailed shut. Sick people abandoned inside. Survival often meant isolation, not care. The smell alone was overwhelming. Rotting food, animal carcasses, unwashed bodies, smoke, and waste blended into a thick, suffocating stench. Breathing this air every day damaged lungs and made people more vulnerable to illness. Open wounds were constantly exposed to bacteria floating in the environment. Even resting indoors offered little protection, as homes were damp, dark, and crawling with pests. Mental fear took its toll as well. People lived knowing that death could arrive without warning and without reason. There was no reassurance, no accurate explanation, and no reliable treatment. Children grew up surrounded by death. Funerals were common. Grief was normal. Hope was fragile. You wouldn't just be fighting sickness. You'd be fighting the fear of sickness. Every moment would feel uncertain. You wouldn't plan for the future because survival itself wasn't guaranteed past the next few days. In medieval times, disease wasn't an event. It was a presence, and escaping it, even for a single day, was a matter of chance, not choice. In medieval times, there was no safety net beneath you, no system designed to protect your life if something went wrong. Survival depended almost entirely on luck, status, and brute strength. If danger appeared, you couldn't call for help. There were no emergency services, no organized police force, and no guarantee that anyone would come to your aid. Authority was local and often cruel, and justice depended on who you were and who you angered. Crime was common and harsh. Theft, assault, and violence happened openly, especially after dark. Streets were unlit, narrow, and easy places for ambush. If someone attacked you, there was little you could do. Defending yourself meant risking serious injury or death, and running away often wasn't an option. Even if you survived the encounter, reporting it rarely led to justice. Powerful people were protected. Ordinary people were disposable. Punishments were severe and public. The goal wasn't fairness. It was fear. Stealing food because you were starving could result in losing a hand. Being accused of a crime could lead to imprisonment, torture, or execution, even without proof. Trials weren't about evidence. They were about confessions, reputation, and social standing. If someone pointed a finger at you, your life could be over before sunset. Fire was another constant threat. Medieval towns were built mostly from wood, with tightly packed houses and open flames used for cooking and heating. One spark could destroy an entire neighborhood. Fires spread rapidly, and there was no fire department to stop them. People often lost everything overnight: homes, food, family members, and had no way to recover. War and violence were never far away. Armies moved suddenly, looting villages and killing without warning. If soldiers arrived, civilians had little protection. You could be robbed, injured, or killed simply for being in the wrong place. Even after battles ended, famine and disease followed, making survival even harder. For women and children, danger was constant and deeply personal. Women had little legal protection and were often treated as property. Childbirth was one of the most common causes of death for women. Children worked from a young age, exposed to the same dangers as adults, but with weaker bodies and fewer defenses. Losing a child was tragically normal. There was no escape from this reality. No safe shelter. No reliable authority. No guarantee of tomorrow. Each night, survival meant nothing more than making it through the dark without fire. Violence, illness, or accusation finding you. Living in medieval times wasn't about building a future. It was about enduring the present. And lasting even one full day required more than strength. It required fortune that most people never had. If this story opened your eyes, if it made you grateful for the life you're reliving today, and if you want more brutally honest stories about history that movies never show, subscribe now, because the next story might make you realize just how lucky you really are.